Hey Darren, how's it going?
I'm fine. Are you fine?
I'm just fine.
Are you dialing in from Vegas?
Yeah.
Got it. Are you one of those people that commutes to Vegas like you have your place in LA and then
No.
okay, so you're fully in Vegas.
Yeah. I kind of had to move because that I actually do that situation with LA, but it's easier to do that and be here.
Yeah, not to be a weird name dropper, but Robin McCauley, who played with Michael Schenker on and off,
Oh, cool.
he's one of those. I think it's Vegas is the day job, so he's there a couple days, and then he's back to LA with the family and back and forth. It
Uh-huh.
So in your case, you're in Vegas for Michael Jackson's one at Mandalay Bay, is it?
Yeah, and now I do that way less, but I still live here because I just realized I wanted to stay here, and it is I feel like it's for me it's easier to have my home base here and do the LA thing. So,
I find that LA, we think of as like the guitar capital of the world, but it's really now Vegas
it
because
really kind of is.
secretly you have Steve Stevens and Stephen
Right,
Pearcy,
right.
all those kinds of guys are there. But we saw a lot of bands from Vegas rise in the last 15 years, including the Killers. It wasn't just Slaughter. When
Right.
when did you kind of realize that Vegas wasn't just the crooners and the old school stuff?
Uh, I mean, I guess I'm sorry about that. I'm sure
Hey,
you can hear that.
you've got that. I've got construction. We've got
Cool.
it all.
Fair enough. I never expected to fall in love with this place, and I didn't really know that much about what was truly going on here when I came out. I just heard the same stuff as anybody else would think, like, oh, it must be weird to live there and blah blah blah. But I liked so much of what was going on here, and now in the age of residencies, it's the
Yeah.
mecca of at least a lot of the stuff that I grew up with. Like all the '90s heroes are here. So for me, that was amazing. But while not every tour comes through here, there's so many great shows, and I mean, obviously, there's going to be great shows. You're in Vegas, right? So I feel very lucky to be surrounded by so much really good entertainment where so much of it is so high quality. And so um I don't know much about there being necessarily a scene out here. I get asked about that a lot. I don't even really know, but I just know that for what it is, it's amazing.
You mean you don't have dinner with Bruce Kulick every week?
I played with him once. He tested with us with Tony McAlpine like over a decade ago, and
Yeah.
I don't know if you would remember me, but I met him that day. He was super nice, and it was fun.
You're 2023. Two new songs that not everyone knows are dropping yet in a couple of weeks. The signature
Yeah.
guitars, the Michael Jackson one. That's quite a calendar you're keeping up lately.
Yeah, it's been amazing. So, yeah, the new songs they've been written during the pandemic with kind of hopes for a better day. They're being released one after another just because that's how they're meant to be listened to. They're eventually probably going to be part of a bigger story, but they're still meant to go together, even though it's not a straight transition from one to the next. But again, that's why I release it that way because I want Song for Hope to be listened to first, then Lavender Mountains, and that's going to have a music video of the latter coming out on May 10th.
Besides you, who played on those tracks?
So Song for Hope is a solo guitar tune. So just me. It was mixed by Alex Argento, and then on Lavender Mountains we have Matt Logg on drums, Pete Griffin on bass, and he plays with me in Dethklok sometimes, and obviously in a ton of other great things. And then Alex Argento played keys and did the mixing again. So yeah,
I About a week ago, I got the press release that Dethklok was going on tour with Baby Metal. Are you part of that?
yes sir.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah,
that tour
a
is
lot
taking
of
you.
we got a lot going on. Yeah.
That's taking you all over the place.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, that is a US tour.
Yeah. How long did you have to keep it a secret that you were part of Dethklok? I say that because at first we just knew it was a cartoon and Brendan was out there and that was it. And then over time they started releasing the credits.
Right. So for me, I'm part of the live band and I joined that in 2019. So that was long after many touring years, many years of the show being out there and lots of fans and great things. And in the last few years, it's been one-offs here and there, and fans dying for Dethklok being back and everything. And so now
Yeah.
with the movie, it's time to get back on tour. So I'm really grateful to be doing the full thing, because I know it's been a while for the band, and again, I'm just as excited about the new movie as everybody else. I'm a fan, you know what I mean? Like, I went to
Yeah.
Berklee. Metalocalypse was huge when I went to Berklee, and it was just right around that same time that everybody else was growing up with it. And so for me, it's it's another thing that I never thought would be a possibility. So I'm so stoked to be doing that across the US.
Totally. Can I throw a compliment at you, because some people don't want to hear good things about themselves?
I mean, I'll say thank you, sure.
Okay. So we were talking a second ago about Dethklok.
Right.
We're talking about the Michael Jackson show that you do.
Right.
You went to Berklee. That's
Right.
a lot of different genres and
Yes.
styles, to say the least. And most people that I speak with and or know who went to Berklee, it's that rule where if you made it in music, that means you didn't graduate. I think you might be one of the only people that I've spoken with who actually graduated from Berklee.
You know, it's so funny that you bring that up, because every time somebody asks me, "Oh, did you actually graduate?" My joke is always like, "Yeah, so that just means that I didn't get a gig," you know? And but it's funny that you're the first person that's like, "Hang on, wait, you graduated and you're actually doing okay." So you're right. That is the viewpoint. And I've always thought about it like that myself. But so that's why it is a compliment for me too. Thank you. Those are very kind words, because I understand exactly where that comes from.
Yeah, I think Melissa Etheridge was a dropout.
You
And
know, it's possible. What's really great about Berklee is when those people end up being honorary doctorates or whatever, you know, they put a graduation year on them, whether or not they actually finished. So so I don't ever remember who even finished, because they just put all their names on there.
most of the people that I think that made it out of Berklee are music directors or singer
Right.
songwriters. Like Abe Laboriel Jr., I guess, is he McCartney's musical director? If not, he should be. Stacey Jones from American Hi-Fi, he is Miley Cyrus's MD. And I don't know a lot of technical lead guitarists, though, that finished.
Hmm.
So I think you're kind of an anomaly there.
I wonder if the Dream Theater guys finished. I can't remember.
Oh,
They might have, but I mean, you know, it's neither here nor there. I'm glad I went to Berklee. It gave me a lot, and I really
totally.
wanted to have the experience. And I definitely later on discovered that it was only going to be a part of a larger story. So
Of course.
yeah,
So
it seems like your whole life at the time. You don't even, you know, I don't think I even got it. That I was just like, yeah, this is not actually the point, but it's just a step. Like, yeah.
totally. Would we know anybody that you were in school with at that time at Berklee? Did anyone else
Um,
come into the metal or hard rock?
I didn't know him then, but Matt Gartzka was in the same class as me.
Nice.
Yeah, I know we had a bunch of friends in common, and Nate Navarro also. He plays with Porcupine Tree now, and Devin Townsend. So we have a lot of people doing really great.
There you go. So
Yeah.
let's recap what we've learned so far. There's new music. There's
Yes.
signature guitars. You do the Michael Jackson thing from time to time. There's the Dethklok and the baby metal. Berklee was good, but not the career highlight and all that. So at this point in time, it has to be a lot for you to track, because sometimes you're the feature artist, sometimes you're the side person, sometimes you're in an anonymous, image-oriented cartoon band.
Hmm.
Is this where you wanted to be? Because I would have to imagine steadily working and touring the world was the goal, but maybe not the final goal.
Well, to be honest, it's amazing. Like, because my goal ideally was always I wanted to do the side woman thing and mix it with my own stuff. You know, I felt bored when I was just doing one or the other, regardless of which one it was. I wasn't expecting to juggle quite like this, and I ask myself sometimes if the computer is going to crash from too many set lists in there at some point, and luckily,
Yeah.
you know, we haven't gotten there yet, but I don't know, you know. So I'm trying to take it one day at a time, but it is exactly what I wanted. So because of that, I'm really trying to not say no to anything, and keep it going for, as I say, as long as they'll let me. Because yeah, I can't even really believe that. And you know, and then obviously scheduling conflicts and stuff are gonna happen, but it's just incredible that it's worked out like this so far. Like so that's why I'm just kind of like, okay, any other thing that works out is just gravy here. Like,
Yeah. And pulling
so,
the curtain back a little bit, the publicist who connected us also works with other greats like Nuno Bettencourt and Tommy Shaw, all that kind of stuff. I couldn't figure out, though, who or what was the person or reason that you started playing guitar, though.
so that's well, actually largely due to Nuno and my older brother Ethan Brosh, who's also a great guitar player. And I grew up with him in the house, and knowing a lot of older music thanks to my older siblings, and I wanted to be like him, and I wanted to play guitar. And when I heard Extreme, I freaked out, and it all kind of connected the dots for me in a lot of ways. So I really grew up around that stuff, and I'm grateful for it, because you know, I was born in '88. I didn't have a necessarily really good chance of falling into this kind of music. So
Right. More than
at
words
least,
happened when you were
yeah,
3.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know, for a lot of people that was not exactly what let them know that the rest of the band's music was not exactly like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, you raise a really good point. Now, I'm despite how it looks, I'm only 6 years older than you. I was born in '82, but I was at the age where my brother, being a music teacher and a musician, you get into what your older sibling who likes music says is cool. And I
right.
remember him showing me More Than Words, but then seeing he was on an album called Porno Graffiti, and
Hmm.
every single thing otherwise was, what? Wait. Wholehearted, I think, was on that same album.
There's
But
Wholehearted, there's the Frank Sinatra, the you know, the When I First Kissed You. Like there's some stuff on that record that
yeah,
isn't funky metal, but man, if the rest isn't heavy, right? So like
it was kind of like Mr. Big, where there
yeah.
was the ballad, and then the rest of the stuff,
Yep.
people would get the album and go, what?
Wait,
That's not
what?
what I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yep. When they toured together for a little bit a few years ago, I thought that was the perfect package ever. You know,
Totally.
like that, what a perfect pairing.
Totally. And it's incredible to see that Nuno is able to do the Rihanna thing. And
And see, again, it's like a perfect example of those were my heroes growing up. That was my ideal career. You know, I loved Steve Stevens and Nuno, and guys that seemed like that's Steve Lukather, you know, like all the guys that seem like that's what you do. You know, you have your own stuff, you have other people's stuff.
and the people you
So
just mentioned all played with Michael Jackson. I think there was a Nuno
isn't that
Black Cat
crazy?
version.
That's right. You're right. Yeah. And
And Lukather,
didn't Nuno produce some Janet Jackson stuff too?
I think so. I think
Something
so.
like that.
And Lukather's
There's definitely some connection. Yeah,
exactly.
I make the joke that I play with Steve Lukather a lot, because they use all the recorded rhythm tracks in the show, all the original rhythm tracks. So I told him that when I first met him, I was just kind of like, yeah, I pretend I play with you a lot. He's like, what are you talking about?
Well, I don't think anyone would be surprised that they've played with Steve Lukather at this point,
Well,
thousands of.
that's a really good point. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but hey, back to you. I'm curious though. You said Nuno was one of the first guitar gods, if not the guitar god. Obviously, 1984 by Van Halen came out before you were born.
Right.
But was Eddie a discovery for you after Nuno?
Yes. Wow, isn't that crazy? Yeah, I think it must have been. I'm trying to search for anything Van Halen I would have known about before I was into Extreme, but honestly, I got into Extreme so early, I didn't really understand the history at that point. And so yeah, I guess I went backwards from there.
Well, picking back, and tell me if this is an offensive question. You just tell
No,
me.
all
But
good.
okay, so when I was growing up, being Jewish here in New York, I would go, wait, that comedian is Jewish? That's awesome.
Right.
That
Right,
rapper's
right,
Jewish?
right.
That's awesome.
Right.
When I found out when I was a kid that David Lee Roth was Jewish, I just thought that was the greatest thing. And that forever
Yeah.
asked me to Van Halen. Did you have anything like that growing up?
I did not so much with, I mean, it's always cool for me when when I find out people are Jewish too, you know, because there's, for how much noise we make, there's not that much, there's not that many of us.
No.
You wouldn't, you know, people think there's like so many more Jews than there are because, you know, we make noise, I guess. But um yeah, I mean, David Lee Roth was a fun one for me because he's from near my hometown. And so that was the thing with Extreme, that when I grew up in Israel and I was the biggest Extreme fan ever in a time where nobody really cared about that stuff then, or at least no one that was my age. Um, and then my parents announced that we're going to move to Boston, Massachusetts. That was pretty much the greatest thing in my life. So that was my thing, is like, I'm going to go to Extreme's hometown. And then, you know, I went to every side project that every member of theirs has ever done. You know, as a little kid in Boston, my parents were so cool to take me to that stuff whenever it was happening. And I wouldn't be able to go to a lot of the shows because of the age limit. So the guys were like sweet enough to let me go to sound checks. And it was just like a really amazing, like, upbringing. So
Wow.
that
So you saw Hurt Smile and you saw Gary's like Who tribute bands and all that?
I did see the Who tribute bands. I don't remember if I saw Hurt Smile, but I saw Tribe of Judah. That's what I'm talking about. Like that's when I moved to the US, was when that stuff was happening. I went to a Mourning Widows signing. I went to, you know, I did all of the local stuff, and I was like pretty much the only 12-year-old, 13-year-old there, and you know, with her parents. So
Wow. And was there a guitar store growing up that was influential on you in Massachusetts?
there was one, but I didn't really connect with that until later on. Because I mean, I was really a fan for a lot of the, and then later on in high school when I was getting really serious about playing, there was Mr. Music in Brighton, Mass. But I think I was getting to the point where I was old enough where it didn't last very. I didn't really feel like I grew up with that the way other people did.
Right.
But I was a super fan, that's for sure. I went to a lot of clinics at actually, you know what? So that's a good point. I went to a lot of clinics at the old Daddy's Junkie Music in Boston.
Hmm.
Uh, that was across the street from Berklee. And I think it's maybe a Guitar Center now. I think it might still be a music store, but there were a lot of clinics there back in the day. I saw Andy Timmons there, and
Oh,
I remember like what a big holiday that was for me, because I'm a huge Andy fan. He's another
yeah.
one of my really big heroes, and to get the opportunity to see him up close like that in a clinic was just, you know, it really shaped me. So yeah, I went
So
to everything that was around.
last question I have for you, and this is another random one, but
Okay.
a lot of people I know who are excellent guitarists, yourself included, I said you're the excellent guitarist, not you.
Thank you. I'll say thank you.
When they pick up a bass, they go, I can't play. I'm not really a bass player. And then other guitarists go, oh, of course I can play bass. I know how to do this. Which one do you fall into? Are you afraid of bass and don't consider yourself one, or do you go, yeah, I know how to play that? You kidding me?
I'm in the former camp for sure. And I don't know if it's, I think it might even just be the size of the instrument and the size of the string, the gauge of the strings and stuff. It just seems like even if I would know what to do on the fretboard, you know, my hands are not tiny, but I can't feel like I don't feel like I maneuver that instrument. So I'm in the former camp.
Hmm. So the other part of that is if Billy Sheehan says, let's do the thing where we're playing the same thing at the same time, though, you could do that on the guitar, but not on the bass.
I would think so, and that would definitely be a lot more accessible to me.
I'm so interested in that. That did you try to play bass in your early days?
Not really. And honestly, you know, going back earlier, you know, because in Israel I did take guitar lessons as a little kid. I took nylon string. I wouldn't even call it classical guitar because I don't think I have any of those skills, but I was on nylon string, and it was, I needed a 3/4 size nylon string guitar because I was a tiny kid and stuff.
Oh,
And we didn't have access to, at the time, a ton of instruments. So I don't even think I saw a bass in real life until I was in middle school in Massachusetts. And the school had maybe, and maybe, you know what, that might not even, that might have been like just a Strat and I'm remembering it as a bass. And so I don't know, you know, I did not really encounter that probably until high school or so. Um, Yeah, you're really taking me back today.
I'm fascinated by all this because I'm sure the usual questions you get are, so tell me about your pedal board setup.
Yeah, yeah, this is a lot more fun, actually. Even if not every memory is like super pink and cloudy, fluffy, you know, romantic, happy, it's still, yeah, it's funny because tone is important to me and I love tone, but I am so not a gear nerd, you know, I'm very much, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, stay
Sure.
with the same, you know, I've done interviews with the same people like 5 years later and the gear list was almost exactly the same and they thought it was hilarious how like nothing had changed from the last time they had interviewed me. So
Yeah, but hey, not many people I interview have a signature guitar, and that's the third or fourth time I'm going to call that out.
well
Plug your
so
signature guitar and your social media, and then you're free for me for the day.
free for you for the day.
You're free from me. No, no
Oh,
more interview
oh,
questions about Judaism, Van Halen, Vegas.
oh.
You're free.
I mean, that's what my life is, so I can't really I mean, I can't really argue with that, right? So, yeah.
So which guitars are you currently plugging right now that the everyday human being can potentially buy?
So, my guitar is not released as a production model right now. It's a custom model that I designed with the LA shop, and it's to my specifications. And so I've been using that a lot live with my various bands. And I still use my yellow RG 550 quite a bit. I mean, that my custom guitar is kind of modeled after it, more or less. So those are my main guitars. I have a slew of 7 strings that some of my older music was written with that I use for certain things still, but they're no longer my main instruments, I guess. Um, I have hmm?
So none of these can be bought now, but if we keep
Right.
bothering the guitar manufacturers, then
Yeah.
we'll be able to buy them.
Yes.
Okay. And then is there a string endorsement at the moment?
I've been with Dean Markley for forever, and I'm really bad at changing them as much as I should.
Well, that's what guitar techs are for.
I know. You know what? I'm finding out in other areas of my life too, where I'm just like, it's okay to not do everything yourself. You know, it's just like, yeah.
I once, I once had an interview with Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull go viral because he
Mm.
was criticizing musicians who use guitar ticks as being lazy for not changing
Wow.
their own strings. I agree with you. My finger dexterity is terrible for changing the strings. I'm going to mess it up. Leave it to the pros.
I mean, I can change them, but also when you're dealing with guitars with floating bridges, and I'm definitely not the person to set them up, okay? I am not that person. I will mess it up for sure. So I can change the strings without messing up the setup. But that's the limit. And so with floating bridges and stuff where so much can go wrong with just changing strings or doing anything that is away from exactly what you should be doing, I need help. So.
Paltrocast.